A fireworks rocket is launched from a hill above a lake. The rock will fall into the lake after exploding at its maximum height. The rock's height above the surface of the lake is given by this equation, g of x equals negative 16x squared plus 64x plus 80. We need to find what is the maximum height of the rocket, and then we're going to need to sketch a graph and label the y-intercept and that maximum height. So what is the problem asking you to find? So we want to find the maximum height, but what is the maximum height? Maximum height is our vertex, right? It's actually finding not necessarily the vertex, but the y value of the vertex. So how do we solve the problem? Well, we need to use our axis of symmetry formula, which is x equals negative b over 2a. So looking back at our equation, we just need to find out what a is. A is negative 16, and b is 64. So once we use the axis of symmetry formula, then we're going to plug it in to find the y. Plug in x to find y. So let's solve for the maximum height of the rocket. So we plug it in. X equals negative 64 all over 2 times negative 16. So this is negative 64 over negative 32, which is positive 2. So now we need to find the y value. So to do that, we plug it into the original equation. So we plug it into negative 16, 2 squared, plus 64 times 2 plus 80. So, of course, you do the exponent first. So it's 16 times 4 plus 64 times 2 is 128, and then plus 80. So then you continue simplifying. So 16 times 4 is negative 16 times 4 is negative 64 plus 128 plus 80. So that ends up being 64 plus 80, or the final answer is 64 plus 80 is 144 feet. So the maximum height of the rocket is 144 feet. So 2-144. At what time does the rocket reach that maximum height? So the time that it reaches, that is our x value of the vertex. So that's the x value. That's the first thing we find. So x value of the vertex. So it is at 2 seconds. The last thing we need to do is draw a sketch. So let's sketch it. Let me make a little bit of room on here. I can just do it right here. So I'm going to sketch it. So what is the y-intercept? So remember, the y-intercept is the c value, this positive 80 here. So we're just going to mark it as 80 right here. Now it's going to make a parabola shape, so that's what we make. And then the last thing you need to do is label that vertex. So that is going to be 2, 144. Okay, so that's essentially what you're doing in each of these problems. You're just finding the y value of the vertex, and so this is just more practice in finding the vertex. And so you have to do the negative b over 2a, identify a and b, and then plugging it in to find your y value. The last part is to sketch a graph, just like we did here. And so you need to label the y-intercept, which is that number at the end, draw the parabola, and then label the vertex. Okay, so I hope this helps.